Very happy to introduce my panel of hidden gems, is what I was calling them, or just gems, who are going to start us off with an introduction to themselves and their book. Sean, do you want to start us off?
Hi, I'm Sean. I write the DCI Morton series of crime novels, which you've probably seen as I've been a member of the UK Crime Book Club for ages. And I also write a standalone book called The Grifter.
And Nick?
I'm Lexie Conyngham, also Nick Mills in the group, depending on which hat I'm wearing which day. I write 3 series of historical crime novels, and the one I'm doing some work on at the moment is Conyngham murders set in Viking Orkney, and that's the first one in the series, Tomb for an Eagle.
We should have Barry as well, so I'm just messaging to get someone to chase Barry up.
Maybe thinks it's 7:30 because yesterday was 7:30.
Yeah.
True,
I nearly made that mistake.
Maybe he might turn up a bit later. So, tell us a little bit about what drew you both into writing in the first place.
Ladies first.
I think I always wanted to write. As soon as I found out that people actually wrote those words that went into the books I liked, I thought, oh, yes, that's what I want to do. And then when I was about 10 or 11, I read my first Agatha Christie, and I thought, yeah, crime's for me. That's it. That's what I want to write. And it's just, I never really stopped since. Finally gave up looking for an agent and started self-publishing in 2011 and haven't looked back.
So for me, it was a bit different. So 2012, St. Patrick's Day, more than a few drinks, someone said I couldn't write a book. The whole, we have had that discussion where we're saying anyone can write a book. Oh, no, they can't. Yes, they can. And, everyone seems to have the idea for a book, at least one, or they think they do, because everyone thinks the idea is the hard bit, when really we all know writing is the hard bit. So they bet me I couldn't write a book, edit it, and publish it in 90 days or less. And I'm really, really, really competitive sometimes. So I've had to give it a go. So I sat down and thought, how would I kill someone? How would you get away with it? What's the sort of murder that would be perfect? And so I started scribbling about how you could use technology, the darknet, how you could try and get other people involved, and how could you make sure you were as forensically, physically, legally removed from what you're doing as possible. So imagine you've got a guy who's a complete coward, but he needs to kill his wife because she's divorcing him, she's taking his kid. All the things that could happen to a bloke. And it's usually blokes who are violent. So, of course, that was the easy cliche by starting. And then try and work out how he'd commit a murder and get away with it. And so I started that. And 23 days later, I published Dead on Demand. And that kind of started it all.
Good answer.
Yeah.
I like it.
It doesn't read like a rushed job at all. It's really, really accomplished. It's good.
Oh, thank you. It was a total rush job. I mean, I haven't done it since. I wish I could. If I could write one every 3 weeks, I'd be laughing.
It'd be handy, wouldn't it?
It would.
Do you still write fast, though?
I tend to research slow, write fast, and then edit really slowly now. So I will do like 4 or 5 months of research, most of which doesn't go into the book. I've now got a stack of research notes that's like a mile high. And then I will try and fast draft it as quickly as possible to try and get that tension and flow, and then spend forever fixing all the mistakes I've made, which I'm not sure if it's the most efficient way to work.
I was going to ask you both about research, because it's one of my favourite things to ask about. Like, what's the most interesting research rabbit hole you've been down? Because I think you both probably do a lot of research, especially Nick or Lexie, sorry.
Whichever you want. Well, for my first couple of series, because they're set in Georgia and Scotland, I was working in Georgia and Edinburgh in the National Archives. And a lot of information must just have crept in by osmosis, and I hadn't realized just how much I'd accumulated until I took on writing the Orkney Viking books as a bit of a dare. Not quite as challenging as your dare, Sean, but somebody said, do you write Viking books? I love Viking books. And I said, oh, no, I couldn't possibly write a Viking whodunit. I do Georgian, nice, elegant ladies and gentlemen. And of course, the idea got into the back of my head and niggled. And I ended up saying, okay, yeah, I'll write this book by the end of the year. And I hadn't realized at that stage just how much research I would have to do to get up to the same level as I had with the Georgian books. So I went to the university course, I went to archaeological digs, I went to the Jorvik Centre in York. I read and read and read and read and I'm still probably nowhere near where I should be, but it's been tremendously enjoyable, I have to say, because I knew virtually nothing about Vikings except they didn't have horns on their helmets.
Oh, I didn't know that. Common misconception.
Common mistake.
Yeah. So I like the really hands-on research, not killing people, don't worry. So I trained as a barrister, so the legal and academic stuff tends to come quite easily, and I can put the procedure in, and it sort of sounds quite true even when I'm winging it a bit. But some of the stuff that you don't realise is the physics of killing someone can be quite complicated. Getting rid of a body is quite difficult. Even I had a scene in Cleaver Square where a van has to roll down a hill while someone is tied up in the back of it. And it rolls about 150 feet down an incline about 45 degrees. And you can do the maths and try and work out the force equals mass times acceleration, what happens when one thing hits another. Or you can go, you're a lunatic, go to a scrapyard, get a van, mock up a makeshift crash test dummy, put it in the back, take it to the top of the hill, and then push it down and see what happens, which is much more fun. And what I learned from that is that it's not necessarily the force of smacking the bottom of the hill that's the problem. It's the acceleration within the van that throws the crash test dummy forward through the particle board divider at the front of the van, and all the stuff that's with it does an awful lot of damage and lacerations to the body. And that sort of practical experiment lets you put just like 3 or 4 lines of quite interesting extra detail. But I think it's worth it.
Yeah.
But it's not the craziest thing I've done for research, because I wrote a book about cults last year, and part of that I thought I'd try and find every cult or cult-like organization, and there's one that I'm sure everyone's heard of that are quite litigious, so I'm not going to name them for obvious reasons, but I decided that the best thing to do would be to go to a charity shop, buy clothes that look nothing like anything I ever wear so I won't get recognized, put them on and go and hang out and right near where they tend to recruit people, and then wait until they spoke to me and then see how their recruitment process worked. I used a burner pay-as-you-go mobile phone. I used a fake number, and just went through the whole thing, which you can guess that there's a bit of like psychological coercion. There's love bombing, which is where they throw a lot of emotion at you and try and draw you in. And then they try and tease out of you all your guilty secrets so that they can blackmail you if you try and leave. So making up ridiculous secrets on the spot is quite fun. I really love that practical side of things. It's a lot more interesting, and it's a good excuse for spending a couple of months each year just doing whatever random rubbish I can think of.
That certainly beats learning how to do nail binding, which is like Viking knitting.
Oh, that sounds fun.
It does sound fun, and I've not gotten into one of your Orkney Viking books yet, and I love things set in Viking era. So I must go and remedy that immediately after this.
That's what I like to hear. Every author likes to hear, I'm going to go and buy one of your books.
No, I already have some of your books. I'm just going to go and buy more of them. Never need an excuse to buy books. I love Viking era stuff. Absolutely. Or anything Scandinavian. Viking. I'm wearing a Norse rune.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a special interest.
I'm not wearing my runic brooch. I've lost it. I can't find it.
So we've done research. Sam's favourite question. You might have had this because you were on the quiz, weren't you?
I was.
When Sam was on. Did you do well on the quiz?
No. Not particularly. I think you got better score than me by 1 point, as I recall from the comments.
Did I?
Yeah, I think so. I think you got the highest of any claimed score, so.
Oh, okay. I didn't pay attention. I only tend to do well on the quiz because of the book round where Ben mashes 2 book titles together. Because I read ridiculously sort of across genres, I tend to do quite well at that, and it artificially inflates my score because I'm very bad at all the other rounds. Sam's favourite question is, tell us the most recent scene that you've written without giving away a spoiler. I like how Lexie's just there going like,
I've just finished a book and it's off with beta readers at the moment. I'm just, because I blanked my mind about it, I'm trying to remember what it was about. I only finished it a few weeks ago. So Sean, please carry on while I try and think.
So I'm doing a bit of a non-crime book at the moment. Last week, Adele, or the week before, there was a news article about Adele and Spotify and how she wanted her album to be played in order because it told a story. And I thought about how our books are always like that. They're structured very linear, A to Z, and you start on page 1, you finish on the last page. So the book I'm finishing up at the moment is a book I'm calling Shuffle. And the idea is that you could read each of the chapters in any order and still end up with a book that makes sense.
Wow.
And so the challenge in doing that is that you need the scenes to all set up each character without giving away the ending, without repeating yourself, and keeping a concept that's quite highbrow, which I don't want to give away because that'd be a twist, but trying to make it such you could have almost like a pipe-like flow so that you can read any of the 12 chapters. And it's basically fun to write, but I suspect my editor may kill me.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
You could try a choose your own adventure style one, because those are all written like that, aren't they? Where you have to go through in different.
It's a little bit like that, but it's a sci-fi concept, which is a bit different, and the concept is quite strong. And I think that will sort of carry it, and you'll see why I've done it when I get around to releasing it. But I think it's quite interesting, and I'd like to see the audio version where you get the audio book and just put it on shuffle like on Spotify, and then you get the experience that's different every time. Wow. And then, of course, you've got potentially 144 permutations that you can put on Amazon as different book covers, which just to fill up the story even more. There's only 20 million odd books on there.
Farmers wanting to know if there's anything either of you would like to learn more about to help with the future book.
Pigs.
Pigs.
Pigs. I've never kept pigs. I've had relatives who kept pigs, but pigs keep creeping into my books, and I don't feel I know quite enough about them. Perhaps one can never know enough about pigs, but I don't feel like an expert, and yet they keep appearing. So yeah, I need to know more about pigs.
Isn't that meant to be a really good way to get rid of a body?
Yeah, good. Yeah, I haven't actually done that yet. Well, I have had pigs nibble people when they're dead, but they haven't. Was it Helen Fields had a good disposal of body by pig in one of her recent books.
I think Rankin did it as well. So I think Big Cafferty's got a pig farm, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's maybe Scottish pigs are particularly ferocious in this respect, or hungry. Yeah, but I need to know more.
So the thing I'd like to know more about is how witness protection works and how often it fails. So there's not much written about the British witness protection program. So there's a bit of artistic license to be had, but there is a book called WITSEC, which is about the American system. And they have a lot of challenges in that they offered protection to gangsters to turn on other gangsters to try and break and murder the code of silence. And so you've got this idea, you might think the witness protection is hiding witnesses who are innocent, but I think there are bigger challenges in hiding witnesses who are themselves criminals, because you know that if you give them a new identity and then set them loose in some random town, they could then rape, kill, murder, steal. And how do you balance those sort of principles of justice and fairness versus the need to have a protected witness? And what happens when that goes wrong and the people in the program use it to further commit crimes or to get revenge against the people that caused them to end up in the program in the first place?
I'm sorry, but Nick's pig's answer was definitely better.
There's not a lot of witness protection in either Georgian times or Viking times, to be fair.
No, Farmer said that she saw chickens in Alaska slowly devouring a wolf carcass. Maybe they could team up with the pigs.
Well, there are usually hens around, certainly, yes, but no, I feel I know enough about hens. It's okay, but pigs, I need my yeah.
Here we go. Oh, sorry, people.
Hello.
Hello, Caroline. Sorry about that. I had it down for 7:30.
Told you.
We did wonder. I'm on the task of tracing you down.
It's me age, dear. It's me age. Right, we're here.
That doesn't always work.
You've got to catch up now. You had to answer all the questions we've answered.
All right.
But really quickly.
Yes, yes, no, no, yes, no, no, and maybe.
Quick fire round. Right. You've thrown me off now, Barry. I've lost my train of thought. No, it's okay. Let's go for an easy one. Tell us your most memorable moments as an author. And we'll start with Sean at the top.
I think it would have been hitting the top 100 for the first time, just because I didn't believe it. It seemed really surreal. So I did the free list first and the paid list later, but the free list was the one that sort of sticks in my memory because I had it was 2012 September, and I had 55,000 downloads in a week, and that was the days before Book Club. And watching the numbers tick up at like every few seconds, another one appeared on the dashboard was just ridiculous.
Go on, Barry.
This week, basically, where the Palmer series hit 14,000 sales over the last year, which is a jump of about 3,000 on 2020. So yeah, if every member likes to go and buy one, they'll get me over 15,000 for Christmas, which would be nice. I thought, no, as an indie, I'm really, really chuffed with that, because it as you all know, it takes a lot of time with your Amazon ads and pushing this and talks and all the rest of it. So once you get to a level, feels great, feels really good. Thank you to anybody watching who bought one. Thank you.
And Lexie?
I think I peaked too early. I hit my 71 in the charts back in 2011, and I've been writing for too short a time to realize what it meant, and I haven't been anywhere near that since, so that's very sad.
You've been a bestseller for a decade.
Sorry?
You've been a bestseller for a decade. I mean, that counts.
I think probably appearing at Granite Noir, which is our local Aberdeen crime festival, which I've done a couple of times, but I think the last time was the best one. I really felt that I was part of the whole thing. I was easier chatting with other authors, and it just felt like I was actually sort of deserved to be there for a change. I think as authors, we're awfully good at deciding that everyone else is an author and we're pretending ferociously, and one day we'll get caught.
Yeah, I agree. I can empathise with that. The first time I got an invite to be on the indie panel at Crime Fest in Bristol, and I thought, I basically had to check it, get back to them and say, "Are you sure?"
this person, this one here, really me.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. No money, but it was great. Yeah, it was great. Yeah.
Oh, money. Who cares about money?
Yeah, well,
we're authors. We can't possibly care about money.
Do you know, I've got more questions, but we'll go to Sam's one that she's asked because it's good. She said, what can you all tell us about your lead character from your most recent book? So this is a good chance. Talk up your lead character from your most recent book. Do you want to start us off again, Sean?
Okay, so the most recent book I wrote was this one, The Drifter. And there's a guy who was an electrician, or a sparky as I call him in the book, and he had a workplace industrial accident and caused him to lose a leg, got a massive payout, enough money that should have lasted him for the rest of his life, except unfortunately he invested all of it in a Ponzi scheme, and then it caused him to snowball out of control. He's ended up homeless on the streets, down one leg and out for revenge. And I think he's quite an interesting character because we see him as an everyman who isn't a genius. He's not like some of the other killers I've written that are plotting and scheming and evil and trying to do it in a sophisticated, clever way. He's just an everyday guy that would love to get even with a billionaire who took every penny from him, and you see if he does in the book or
not. That's interesting. One leg. I mean, yeah. I'd like to know your thought process where you get to that, because that's got me hooked. Put it that way.
the reason I wanted that was because I needed the payout for the compensation payout to be enough that you could live on it in theory, such that when you lost it, it was life ending in terms of ruining normal everyday life. And so we sort of see his fall from grace has happened off screen right at the start. And the way I plotted the book was to take Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and we start with him at the very bottom, trying to claw his way up layer by layer, trying to get shelter and food and all the rest of it. While at the other end, we've got someone who is exceedingly wealthy, basically spending money out the wazoo in order to try and buy happiness and prestige. And you kind of have a bit of a mirror there in that they both got problems with money, but they're on orders of magnitude different scale.
Yeah. I'm hooked.
You've got a few more sales going on there, Sean. Barry, your lead character.
Well, the lead character is book 3 in the Ben Nevis series. Ben Nevis is he's a private eye. He works out of London. He's international private eye. He's ex-military and MI5. And every now and again, he gets, other than the divorce cases that most private eyes chug around making money on, he gets called in by MI5 or the regional crime squads and to help them when it's a big case and they don't want to involve their own men. Now, Ben has a partner who's called the Gold Digger, and she's an ex-Mossad person, and they met when the USA went in to Bin Laden in Pakistan and bombed him there and killed him, and they were on separate sides there, but they were giving backup in case anything went wrong. Ben was on a Chinook for the military, our military, and the Gold Digger was in a Chinook for Mossad. And at the briefing afterwards, they met. That's just a very brief get together for them. And then they both came back together when they'd retired from the army and both gone private. And the Gold Digger's got her name because she was making a living by, what should we say, seizing on wealthy men, promising them all sorts of things, and never giving in it anything but taking their money. So she was known as the Gold Digger. That's where that comes from. She was domiciled in London, and they met up again when she tried to do a con job on one of Ben's clients, and he sort of sussed it out, and they met again. And now, as I say, they are both called upon by organised crime division of the Met and MI5 when they need people from the outside, and this normally involves going all over the world. Chinese whispers, they go through Madeira, Morocco and all that, chasing someone who's stolen from GCHQ the keys to our defence satellite system. So it's in that sort of mantra of what's going on, and he's a cheeky guy. You know, he answers back and he, oh, well, yeah, all right, and all that sort of thing. Doesn't get up until 11 in the morning and et cetera, et cetera. So it's a bit different from James Bond.
And Lexie?
Well, my Viking series has got sort of two joint main characters. There's Sigrid, who is a widow. She was married to a soldier who got badly injured and became very violent and frustrated and knocked her about a bit. And her filthy temper, and there's more we need to find out about him in future books, but that she's keeping secret. But she's a wool worker. She's trying to support herself, but she's pretty poor. And while she's living there in Orkney, a childhood friend from Heatherview, which is now in Denmark, turns up as one of the henchmen to Thorfinn, Earl of Orkney and Caithness. He's the high heejin around the place. And because they're childhood friends, he always assumes that he's an idiot and needs looking after. And she's like his big sister. But he's actually a pretty competent warrior. And she's just, they work together with her, sort of bullying him and him quietly trying to get on with the work. So yeah, that's they balance it out pretty equally actually between them. So I couldn't say which was the main character. But he's the one who picked up the pig this time. It's all his fault.
Yeah, back to the pigs. So Sam has also asked if you've visited or would like to visit somewhere that really interests you as a setting for a book.
Oh,
Everyone's stumped. Sean, you want to start as well?
I think I'd probably say somewhere like Bora Bora. I'd love to have a tropical murder rather than one set in grimy London. If only just to have a expenses paid trip to go to Bora Bora and see the volcano and all the tropics. A bit cheeky, but
Barry?
oh, that's a difficult one, isn't it? Because all the settings, especially the Ben Nevis books, Morocco, Madeira, Turkey, all through the Middle East there, Iran, Iraq, I've been to. And obviously the Palmer books are all set in London, DC Palmer. But I think I'd like to, I've never been to America. Whether I'd enjoy it or not, I don't know. But yeah, I think I'd probably like to go to America and have a good look round and do and write a Ben Nevis book in America. Yeah, that would be quite good. Yeah.
I think my Georgian series, I think I've been to everywhere that's mentioned in them, including Norway and India, which my characters drift off to now and again. But in the Viking ones, I would like to go to the birthplace of my main characters, which is Hedeby, now in Denmark. Hedeby, it's called now. And there is a preserved Viking village there, which I'd very much like to go and have a hook around and work out what the wind feels like, what the water looks like, and get a real sense of the place.
There's a really good Viking, like sort of preserved and like got a lot of interesting artifacts from in near Stockholm called Berka.
Yes, that's another one I'd like to go to. It's a similar kind of settlement. Hedeby and Berka were both really trading settlements. They weren't established by warfare. They were very much trade, and it demonstrates the other side of the Viking tradition of traveling far and bringing back little pretty things. They really liked bright colors and pretty things. We don't really think that about Vikings, but they were always importing and shuffling stuff around and go, "Oh, look at this nice bead, amber from the Baltic. Oh, look at that." They're very excited about that kind of thing. So yeah, it'd be lovely to go to one of their big trading places, apart from York, of course.
Yeah, I need to go back to Stockholm because it was too frozen when I went for us to sail up to Berka.
Oh, which must have been an issue at the time too, I suppose.
Yeah, really, it was, and it was like April as well.
Mm.
We went, so you wouldn't expect it to be frozen, but
yeah,
still was. Pardon?
One day soon, I will go.
You're giving me a totally different view of the Vikings. I always think of them with great big swords in their hands or axes. I must have that. You've got us. Yes. I've never really thought of them coming up the sands at Hastings and saying, "Anybody want a bead?"
Well, it did. I think the thoughts of them are varied. I mean, back in the sort of 1930s onwards, everyone thought, "Oh yeah, big warriors, helms and helmets," which they never had.
Yeah.
And then back in the 60s, everyone got a bit politically correct and said they were farmers and settlers. And now we know that basically they went in, whacked a few people, grabbed a few women, and then thought, we could trade here. This would be quite good. Now we've got captive customers and a good market. We can come in with our nice beads from the Baltic. So it's a bit of a mix, really. They were very like everybody else, I suppose. But I mean, Viking actually means sort of traveling and fighting. So if you call them Vikings, then you're probably saying they're charging out of their boats with swords and grabbing people.
You're opening my mind.
Oh, and also,
which is what books should do, of course.
In theory, of course, the Danes were worse than the Norwegians. The Danes were the ones that were still ransacking England, and while the Norwegians were settling quite happily in Scotland.
Right.
If you believe the books.
But there is a lot of writing from the Viking times, a lot of like sagas and.
Well, yes and no, because the sagas were written down much later, so we don't know how much was. It's quite possible that what's in the sagas was influenced by the growth of the Christian Church and what was respectable by the 14th, 15th century when they were actually being written down. So in Viking times, they were oral traditions, so they were very much susceptible to change. So we can deduce some things from them, and other things we have to take with a pinch of salt.
Yeah. Still fascinating read, so.
Oh, yeah. And the period I'm writing about is when Christianity is coming in. So there's conflict between the old beliefs and the new beliefs, and changes in behavior and what people hold as valuable, they're no longer considering to be so worthwhile. So crime always likes a bit of conflict.
So we've got another question that says, you've all had varying careers before becoming authors. Have your experiences helped you when writing? I'm sure yours must have, Sean.
Yeah, well, I do try to avoid being boring and putting lots of lore in my books. I think I strayed a bit too far in that direction with my third one, 10 Guilty Men, which nerds will recognize as a quote from a famous judge who said that it was better that 10 guilty men walk free than one innocent man be imprisoned. And I do like some of the legal tricks there, like the fact that at the time you couldn't compel a spouse to testify against their husband. So you've got some interesting little tidbits that have quite practical ramifications. And I don't know if anyone's been watching the new Imran Mahmood show on BBC, but I quite like that one. And that you can see his legal career, he's a barrister as well, shining through. I think a little bit stretching it in terms of the amount of license it was allowed in telling the story in the courtroom. But I like the authenticity that having done your research brings. And previous careers like automatic built-in knowledge for one thing, and hopefully you can sort of apply it and weave it through.
Good one, Barry?
Yeah, well, I think I first started, really took an interest in writing. I was more interested in reading when I was sort of in my 11, 12, 13 stage. And then at secondary school, my English teacher entered an essay that I'd written in class into a competition with what was then London County Council in those days, into this essay competition, and blow me if I didn't win the damn thing. And that set me off. Oh boy, you know, I was top of the heap, man. You know, I was king of the castle. I got this little medal for the LCC and a little thing for my wall that said essay number 1. You've won first prize. You know, once again, no money. You know, just a plaque. And when I left school, I went into advertising as a copywriter with a company called Irwin, Wasey, Ruthworth and Ryan, believe it or not, in Paddington. They were one of the big American advertising agencies, and this was their branch over here. And while I was there, I sent in some stuff to the BBC and just struck lucky, really, and ended up as a script editor with the BBC and writing various bits and bobs and all that sort of thing. And carried on down that path with a few transgressions here, there and other, working for most of the independent television companies over the years, the 80s and 90s. And then it all got a bit, well, everything sort of died down, and it all became conglomerate with one and all the rest of it, and too many laws, and you can't do this and you can't do that. And then I just thought, oh, well, I've had enough of this. And I'd got, while I was doing that script editing, obviously you're away in hotels a lot, working for sort of Granada and then Central and then down south of TSW and all the rest of them. And I got these Palmer books all written down as scripts, basically, for a pilot. And that never came to anything. And then I suddenly thought, when I left it, I thought, oh, I've got all these Palmer books. So I started turning. I think I got about 4 then, and about 27 different ideas for others. And I turned the first 3 into books, went on Amazon with them, and they did okay. And once I got the hang of advertising on Amazon, they did even better. So now, you know, we're up to number 14 on that. And Yeah, it's great. I love it. I wish I'd done it. I wish I'd taken over writing from the scripting years ago, to be honest with you. You know, it was a lost opportunity, but there we are. Yeah, I wish I'd started ages ago. Yeah. So that's basically the tour for me. The only other thing is, of course, my family, which were all criminals and ran with the various gangs in South London. Although my mother, who was a model of that day, insisted that me being the youngest would not follow that, you know, visiting dad in prison for Christmas and all the rest of that rubbish. They were just also stupid, actually. I've got a very stupid family, I really had. And so gratefully she kept me away from that. And she sent me to the Academy of Drama at the Elephant and Castle. I lasted a month before they sort of sent me home with a note saying, "This boy has no talent whatsoever. Please keep him at home. Don't send him here again." And that was it. That was it. That was the end of my acting career, you know. And a neighbour of mine, his name's Michael White. He did all right, but changed his name, didn't he? And did all right. And here I am, basically. And yeah, there's been a few detours along the way, but too many to sort of get into, really.
And Lexie, you've mentioned the archives.
Yeah, I'm still a freelance archivist, and I've specialised in military and medical archives, and now I do quite a lot of whiskey archives, which quite often means I get nice free bottles for Christmas, which is lovely. And hobbies have included target rifle, things like that, which has been quite handy one way and another. But just living in archives has meant, you know, you're always being presented with plots just handed to you on a plate from something that's happened 200 years ago that you think, oh, I wonder where it went. Oh, I wonder what happened from there, and how did that start? And the next thing you know, there's a book. That's all.
I may just be being very literal and stupid here, but I'm imagining a whiskey archive as just like a large room with lots of bottles of whiskey in.
Do you know, yeah, one place I worked, they did have bottles with every label the company had produced, right up to a particular souvenir bottle that I think the whiskey in it, hang on, the bottle itself cost, no, hang on, the whiskey was £120, and the bottle, which was specially made and it was very, very limited edition, I think there were 12 of them, was well up into the sort of 25,000, something like that. And it was just sitting there in a glass case in the room I was working in, and every time I went past it, I thought, don't knock the glass case, don't knock the glass case. Terrifying. But yeah, lots of boxes with documents as well, I'm afraid, the dull stuff.
Who made the bottle?
I'm trying to think. It was a famous jeweler, and I can't remember now. It was beautiful silver filigree up around the bottom of it, and then special glass to fit into it. And then there was a jewel of some kind on the top as well. It was quite spectacular. Somebody in China bought two.
Wow.
It's very limited edition. One for himself and one for his son.
Liquid capital.
Yeah.
But no good once you've drunk it.
Well, the bottle was still worth something. I suppose turn it into a lamp.
Just fill it back up.
No one would know. Sam's got a question just for you, Sean. She said, did your brother book you when you were writing together?
Yes. Unless he's watching, in which case, no. Yeah, writing with a brother is an interesting way of working. It's quite hard to split things 50-50 if you're working with someone that is an experienced writer, but working with a teenage brother is a bit of a challenge. He was very good at coming up with ideas. A bit scary how good he was at coming up with ideas and different ways to kill people. So give him props for that. But back then his writing was a little bit clumsy, to be honest. And so very few words he came up with ever made it into anything. To be fair to him, he's gone on to do a access to Oxford, and he's in his third year at Exeter doing an English language degree, and now he probably writes better than I do. But at the time, it was definitely a bit of a challenge.
I'm fairly sure I would murder my brother if I had to do anything as a task with him.
My brother would murder me.
I mean, potentially it would go the other way round as well. Not
Mine's
like
an
do.
engineer, he's very precise.
And mine's a pilot.
Oh,
Which is
commercial.
good. Yes, commercial. He's flown me on holiday, which was very exciting, and does require a degree of trust.
Yeah. It's not something you want to query when you're up in the air, really. Are you sure you can fly this thing?
You get outed though if your brother's a pilot. Like that's a bad thing because he can do he does the speech of this is your like captain speaking and things. So
Oh, you can have a lot of fun with that, couldn't you? This is your captain speaking. Please beware, the woman in seat C53 is in fact a lunatic. Don't approach with.
yeah, something very much like that happened. Right, my favourite author chat question is: would you make a graphic novel of one of your books? I'm literally a massive nerd and love them. That's why I asked everyone. What did you say, Lexie?
I said, oh.
Would you make a graphic novel?
It would be quite short, I think, because I'm a bit wordy, and I think if you reduced it down to the pithy essence of a graphic novel, I think it would be graphic novella, really. Maybe that's a good hint to me to edit.
You'd lose a lot, wouldn't you, if with just having pictures? Really, be more like a comic, but you'd lose a lot of atmosphere and character, I think.
In some ways, you gain it. I mean, there are some superb artists doing graphic novels.
Yeah, but it wouldn't work for my. No, not for mine. No.
Fair enough.
I have to confess, I've never read a crime graphic novel, so I can't really comment.
There are some
Is there one I should start with?
Hmm?
Is there a recommendation of one I should start with?
It depends what you like. There are some really excellent ones. So Alan Moore did From Hell, which is about the Jack the Ripper case. That's really good if you just want to stand alone. And then there are lots of very famous crime authors that write for the Hellblazer series.
And there's Ben Aronovich does his Rivers of London as graphics too, doesn't he?
Yeah, Ben Aronovich has Rivers of London spin-off stories as graphic novels. But like Ian Rankin and Denise Mina and people like that have written for the Hellblazer series.
What is a graphic novel? Am I getting the wrong end of the...
It's a comic, essentially.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, yeah. That's how you get atmosphere and everything over in a comic.
You really can. You just maybe haven't explored the right ones. There are some that have amazing atmosphere and really good stories.
Things like V for Vendetta started off as a graphic, didn't it?
Mm.
I'm the Beano and Dandy age, I'm afraid.
But something like Lovelace and Babbage is a very, very good one, with more footnotes than text, to be honest. It's a whole tour through the history of inventing computers, plus lots of adventures in between. Yeah,
I have to admit that's not one I've read, but it's high on my list of ones to read.
Mm. It's kicking around
there are some cracking ones. Right, we've got more questions from Sam. She says, do any of you have a favourite bookshop? Hard times for bookshops, so a shout out would be great.
Daunt Books. I love the layout in there. It's in Marylebone, and it's got this gorgeous ye old worldy bookshop where you've got the upstairs and you go up past wooden railings and you can sort of just lose yourself in there. It's got a sort of long library at Trinity sort of feel to it. Lots of international stuff. So.
Go on, Barry. Favourite bookstore?
We haven't got any in the Forest of Dean. So my nearest one is Cheltenham, which is an indie one, which is very, very good. And there's one at Chepstow, just on the Welsh border there, and they're very, very good. And there is a smaller one at a place called Tewkesbury near Gloucester, and they're very good, and they're always open to indie authors, you know, on a sale or return basis and whatever. And I've pushed quite a few books that way. Yeah, for the majors, I don't know. I think when I get my reports come in, it doesn't really tell me who bought them. So I can't really say which of my favourites would be the ones that bought most, obviously, and sold most. I think it's probably the Waterstones lot, and they do keep a very good book shop. The only one I know is London. I think W.H. Smith have had it now, but I think Waterstones, of course, which is Dalton or whatever his name is, as well. He's running that, and he's over in America at the moment, isn't he, trying to save the big Barnes and Noble chain there. So good luck to him with that. I think he's doing all right there. His profits are up this year, so he seems to be working his wonders over there. But my favourite bookshop is any indie bookshop, basically. I mean, you know, I try and support them whenever I can, and more power to them, because they've got a hard time. Yeah.
Lexie?
Oh, well, I have to. I'm signed up to say that Aberdeen Blackwell's is the greatest bookshop on earth, because I work there occasionally. But their manager is terrific, actually. I think he won the Bookshop Manager of the Year a couple of years ago, and he's very inventive, deals with squads of students, while at the same time managing to keep all other aspects of a decent bookshop going, and does games nights, board games, card games, all kinds of role-playing games. It's very small, but it packs a huge punch.
I think the thing with indie writers and bookshops is that you've got to look at it from their point of view. They've only got so much shelf space. So if you go in there with all these, this is my 14 book series, here's one of each, can you put them on your shelf? I mean, you wouldn't like it if someone said it to you. If I owned a bookshop and someone said, so what I try and do, if I'm going I don't go into any new ones now, I use the same ones. But I always get a professionally made stand-up little counted ads or whatever, and shelf stickers and things like that, and give them the whole package and say, you know, here's a package, do with it what you will. And I find they're more receptive then, because you're sort of working with them to sell the books, rather than just giving them a book and saying, here, you sell this for me. So, you know, I think if indie authors gave a little more thought to what they're going to give to the bookshops with their books to get them displayed and sold. I mean, obviously the bookshop wants to sell your book because he's making a profit, and then you sell one and he'll take another one. So yeah, you've got to think it through, I think, and not just assume that because you're an author, he's going to take your book.
I think I have two favourite bookstores, but one's disappeared. And I used to like one when I was little called the Ancient House in Ipswich, that was in this like medieval old building. Well, the floors were slanty and slopey, and it was like, it was lovely when you went in because it just felt old and atmospheric and nice. But that has closed down now. Last time I went to Ipswich, it was a hardware shop, I think.
Oh, mind you, hardware shops have been in the ground too.
But my favourite one in existence is still open and does need supporting, and is in York. Like Stonegate Bookstore is really near York Minster, and it's like a tiny little front, and they have books out, and it's got what Terry Pratchett would call L space, in that you go in and it looks like it's going to be minuscule, but there's floors and floors, and it just keeps opening up, and there's more shelves, and you're always guaranteed to find something intriguing to read when you go in there. I never go and don't come out with books. Ever. Guaranteed to leave with books when I go there. And Sam's saying that I took her to a great shop in Manchester that she didn't know was there, that had an excellent range of graphic novels and games and all sorts.
There's one in Inverness which is very highly recommended, and I was in Inverness on Saturday, and I didn't have enough space between trains to go and look for it, but apparently it is wonderful. So next time I'm in Inverness.
Yeah, there was a thread in the group about the like a town in Scotland that's got really good bookshops.
Oh, Wigton. Wigton is a sort of Hay on Wye type thing. It's
That's a place. That's a place, Hay on Wye, because that's not that far from me. And I always try and get up there when they're having the big festival and everything. Although it's a load of rubbish, really. It's all the same, mega stars every year. I can't be bothered with them, but I do like going up there those weeks because I know that the bookshops up there would have gone into their cellars and brought just about everything out for that week, hoping to sell it all. And you can find some good stuff, up there that you've forgotten, and a few new authors as well I've picked up there, which I've liked. I like Hay on Wye in when they have that. That's nice.
I live really near the Bradford as well in Leeds, which has one of the most beautiful Waterstones in. Don't know if you've ever seen the pictures. It's in like what looks like an old converted church. It's absolutely gorgeous, and the pictures don't do it justice. That's well worth. There's not. Hoping no one from Bradford is watching this. There's not a lot of other reasons to go to Bradford. But the Waterstones is amazing.
I had my best curry ever in Bradford. I was up there with a television company, and the guy I was with, his program, he said, "Come on, we're going to get a curry." And we went round the back streets, and you used to get families open their front doors and say, "Curry, you want curry?" And you go in, and for $5 bob, $10 bob, or whatever in those days, you get fantastic curry cooked by the family and everything. Yeah,
you still do get a cracking curry in Bradford as well.
I don't know that you get it with these people because of health and safety and all that sort of thing these days. They have to have.
Zanzibar, they do a similar thing. I don't think Zanzibar is governed by the same hygiene laws, and they do a similar thing. People's houses are open for curries. It's a long way to go. It's closer to get to Bradford, though.
Probably. Sam wants to know how you all work out tricky scenes. What do you do when you get writer's block or you're stuck?
When we get what?
He said, how do you work out tricky scenes? So what do you do when you get stuck on something? Do you go for a walk? Sean probably comes up with some crazy way of like putting things in a van and pushing it down the hill.
I was trying to say drink a second ago, but I think drink and stupid ideas do go together. I try and just write all the different permutations you could and see which ones work, which is a really boring, iterative way of doing it, but sort of does the trick.
I just shut off. It's the one I'm writing, the Palmer one I'm writing at the moment. I got to a stage where what I thought was going to happen, and I've written down, this is going to happen sort of thing. And I thought, no, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. No, I can't do that. And nothing else would come to mind. So basically, it's just forget it. Put it down, go and do the garden, take the dogs down the forest a couple of times for a couple of days. And it's going round in your mind. And all of a sudden I find that the light goes, and you've got it. And then it's back into the office and on with writing it. Yeah, it's just time away. I don't think you can sit to a desk and force an idea out. I think it's if it's always in the back of your mind that the situation, then you've got to. It just whatever's going to happen, it just seems to come to me. I don't know whether the others feel that way. No.
I don't find that walking works for me so much. I mean, I walk a lot, and I do sometimes come up with ideas when I'm walking, but it's better for sorting out non-writing problems. I find sitting on a bus is great because I've got no decisions to make. I don't have to be concentrating on driving. I can't leave on a bus, I'll be sick.
Sitting on a bus?
Yeah, it's great.
What's a bus?
Well, we have them in Scotland for public transport purposes.
I think we used to have them in the Forest of Dean, but I think we haven't.
Well, I'm in the city, so we do have quite a few buses. And I was stymied during lockdown because I didn't really want to get on a bus, and there weren't that many anyway. But I've got back to bus travel now, and I just sit on a long bus journey and sort things out in my head, and it works very well. I can't do it when I'm driving. That's absolutely impossible. I would drive into something. I do that anyway, actually. I'm not a very good driver. But anyway, buses, great.
Buses.
I like buses in lockdown most. But
Sorry?
they were my favourite buses are lockdown buses because there was barely anyone on them. They
Yeah.
limited the numbers, and it was like nice and.
But you had lots of issues with people not wearing masks, which they are doing up here. So.
No, we have no buses, we have no trains. No. But but the one thing I might have told you yesterday on the promo that we just moved house, and my solicitor, whatever they call them, gave me a form which told me that HS2 wasn't coming through the Forest of Dean. I mean, how ridiculous is that she had to go and get that looked at to see whether HS2 was coming through the Forest of Dean? Blimey.
How close does it get?
Who knows? We've got 4 minutes left, so finish us off with a reminder of you and your books. If you've got books to show off, do so. Give us a sort of reminder of your websites, all of that good stuff. Go on, Sean, start us off.
So I write the DCI Morton series, 7 novels, 1 novella. The whole thing's complete now. They look a bit like that. You can see my name is in massive font, so even if you're a bit blind, you can probably find them. Quite colourful as well. If you've got better eyesight, you can probably just about see my name on that one, which I wrote with Ali Gunn this year. And you can find me by Googling Sean Campbell or DCI Morton.
Excellent. Barry?
You can find me at barry-faulkner.com. That's the website, or on Amazon under my name. First series is the DCS Palmer series, 14 books there. Then there's the Ben Nevis and the Gold Digger book. There's number 4 coming. There's 3 out now. I haven't got quite a bigger font as Sean, but we're getting there for me. and a factual series, the serial killers of the UK, and I've also done the big heists of the UK, which is Brinksmat, Great Train Robbery, and all the rest, with a few little insights from the family that you won't find anywhere else. And that's doing extremely well. I don't know why. It's just flying at the moment. There you go. That's me.
And I'm Lexie. I've got this series is the Viking one. That's the next one coming out. I can be found as Lexie Conyngham on Facebook, Twitter, website, and Goodreads.
And you can get signed copies of all of your books, can't you? I think can members contact you all directly and get signed copies of your books?
Yeah, there's a thing on my website where you can ask for one. Yeah, no problem.
Yep, I'm almost out of stock for Christmas, so if you want any, I've only got, I think, 16 left, maybe less. But yeah, usually just email me.
I'm pretty sure I got one of Lexie's that I won in a charity auction.
Oh, a rare unsigned copy, was it?
I know, it's a signed copy.
Oh, okay.
Which is excellent. It's on my signed shelf collection. And then so all that's left for me to say to all of you is thank you so much for being on. You've been an absolute pleasure. And Sam has said that she's loved it as well.
Thank you for asking us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Right, let me stop the stream. That was awkward.
We're here forever.
We may be.
She's abandoned us now.
She's gone.
We've lost Caroline.
We'll never escape now.
Oh,
She's on her way out.